it's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of a week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was Lincoln! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on Sports Grid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on Sports Grid.
The two guys that can do it all. Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on Sports Grid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like and be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim. Only on Sports Grid.
Opening hour of the Early Line, not a lot of football. Hour number 2 on this Thursday, a ton of football, exclusively football to get you ready for week number 12 that kicks off tonight in Cleveland. Should be a blustery, cold, and rainy night. That's AFC North football, buddy, between the Browns and the Steelers. Pittsburgh atop the division at 8-2, winners of 5 consecutive games. We'll set the stage for Thursday night football. All the players, the props, and everything that you need to know that will dictate the outcome to start week number 12. Mark Zinno will join us later on in this second hour to talk to you about the game of the year. Number 5 in college football. It's Ohio State in Indiana on Saturday in Columbus. Elsewhere around the SEC. More Thursday night football thoughts. That's how you do it, DRS, here on a Thursday in hour number 2.
Exactly. And talking yesterday about the college football playoff rankings that came out, I could care less who got the buys. I'm just focused on where we're going to get some of these home games. And you're telling me that we have some absolute bangers if the season ended today of what we would get, where Alabama would be on the road in some cold weather. I mean, sign me up. I cannot wait to get there. But we still have a couple more weeks to let things play out, including that Ohio State-Indiana game kicking off at noon. Geniuses out there. Yeah. Geniuses putting that on at noon.
The biggest fan of big noon kickoffs in the history of college football. It is that man right there in Donnie Wright's side. DRS, before we preview tonight's Thursday night football game between the Browns and the Steelers, did just want to wrap up the conversation around Eli Manning. It is one of those debates you have had with your buddies or your group chat many a time in the last decade. Eli Manning is one of 6 quarterbacks in the history of the National Football League to have multiple Lombardi trophies. He's a 2-time Super Bowl MVP as well. Maybe not multiple Lombardi trophies, but Super Bowl MVPs. Joe Frizo, can we get some clarification on that? Or is it multiple Super Bowl championships? MVPs.
Yes,
Thank
both.
you very much. 4-time
Yeah.
Pro Bowler for Eli Manning as well. The number's pretty good, but rather mediocre in comparison in terms of the win-loss record in all that Eli Manning was able to accomplish. Of course, his name carries a lot of weight in the lore of National Football League history as well. 57,000 23 passing yards, 11th most all time. But a lot of people from this generation of the National Football League will rank in the top 5, top 10, top 20 in terms of passing yards and passing touchdowns. Now, Donnie, the question, I don't actually know if is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer, but is Eli Manning a first ballot Hall of Famer? You would say no. Do you think eventually Eli Manning, understanding who he is and what his name means to the NFL, will be in the Hall of Fame when all is said and done?
1,000%, because once I understood that the Hall of Fame was a business and not just getting in on merit for most of the time, he's going to get in. The Giants are a big market. People will make the pilgrimage out to Canton, Ohio when he gets inducted. That means more money for the Hall of Fame that actually operates independent of the NFL. So let's get that out of the way. The player himself, very good football player. You win 2 Super Bowls. Not a lot of quarterbacks have done that. I understand that. But as I brought up the point, it's not from a hating perspective. As he just said, Eli was a good quarterback. Compare him to his brother, who every single year felt like he made the Pro Bowl and was shattering records. Oh, but only won 1 Super Bowl. Stop the madness. Peyton was so much a better quarterback here that you sort of ride on those coattails. When I look at Hall of Fame, you're not even supposed to have a debate on who's a Hall of Fame player. It should be a snap decision. Absolutely yes. Absolutely no. I don't want to hear about, look, 117 and 117 as a quarterback. That's ridiculous. You had a ton of interceptions. Did he step up big in a few moments? Yes, he did. But let's also understand this. The catalyst for the Giants winning Super Bowls was never Eli Manning. It was always the defense that got the credit for him. Did he make big plays in the Super Bowl? Won a great pass down the sideline to Manningham. Love that play. But how about the David Tyree play, which should have been a stone-cold interception, which stuck to a guy's helmet, which Eli gets credit for, a horrendous pass downfield. Again, I'm not slandering Eli. He's a good quarterback, but in no way, shape, or form, when you bring up Hall of Fame, he should automatically be in. But as I said, he will eventually get in because the Hall of Fame would love to put his bust there. People will go there and pay money to see Eli Manning as that monster franchise, the New York Giants. Yeah. That's my piece.
Frankly, I actually think he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer as well. Whether he is deserving of it, but the notoriety behind it, I think allows him in on the first try. I don't care as much about the Hall of Fame as some do in either sports or in any of the sports. I do believe Eli Manning, because of his notoriety, his place in the grandeur that the Manning name has in the National Football League, given the fact he has won 2 Lombardi trophies and 2 Super Bowl MVPs, I think that will be the difference maker to have Eli Manning be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't really get involved in these long sports debates, but I do hear your points as well, DRS. Any more thought on Eli Manning before we talk about actual football this week and the start of week number 12?
No, and by the way, awesome guy.
Yeah.
Funny as all get out. Him and his brother make great content here. So if he gets in, I'm not going to be upset by it. But this also comes from, well, Donnie, you're a hater of the Giants. Have you ever heard me talk about Donovan McNabb when they try to bring him up for the Hall of Fame? Absolutely not. And I say multiple times. I would go into Lincoln Financial Field and look up in the rafters and see 5 retired. Like, how the hell did that happen? So I'm not a hater. If I'm hating on my own team more than anybody else. I'm just calling it for what it's worth. When I see something I don't like, I'll call it out. Simple as that.
Reports of a South Jersey man climbing the Raptors at the link to rip down a certain retired jersey.
Oh, that would be
That's
good.
Donnie Wright's side. All right, let's get you ready for an AFC North divisional duel to kick off week number 12 of this NFL regular season. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the team atop the division right now in the AFC North. 8-2 is the record. A cover in all 8 victories. 5 wins in a row, including all 4 with Russell Wilson under center. The Steelers, 3.5-point favorite only against the 2-8 Cleveland Browns, who have covered just once in any of their 8 losses this season. Let's start with the numbers, DRS. Pittsburgh, a little bit more than a field goal favorite. That could be crucial for a game that features a total now of just 36.5, but actually up ever so slightly in the last hour to 37 and a hook. It was 35.5 earlier this week. Joe Ranieri and I took an early look at this game, and he mentioned some potential gnarly weather tonight on the shores of Lake Erie. Wind, wintry mix, gusts up to 40 miles per hour. It's why I already bet the under. I might have got a bad number at 35 and a hook, the odds makers might tell you.
Yeah, everybody. Usually what happens, too, is you'll get it on TV in game time. Like, oh, look, it doesn't look that bad in the warm-ups 3 hours before the game. But it is going to be some not great weather in a season. We've had fantastic weather for a lot of NFL action, particularly in the month of November. Now, let's just understand this. It's a Thursday night football game. It's a division rival. It's colder weather, some rain maybe, and some wind. That doesn't signal like, oh, my goodness, let's get after it. And also keep in mind, I think the dam is broken on the Cleveland Browns. Hey, let's get excited. We beat the Ravens. Unbelievable. The bottom is falling. They've gotten smashed the past 2 weeks. But Jameis Winston is such a tough quarterback, Ben, to bet an under with, because you understand this. He's just going to throw it all over the place, good and bad, which means interceptions, which means touchdown passes. But understand this from a Pittsburgh Steelers perspective. Their goal is not in college football to stay like in the top 12 and have an impressive victory. If they win this 7-6, it'll be one of the best wins of their season. Thursday night on the road against a division rival that you tend to dominate. I don't know if we're getting the high-flying theatrics from the Steelers offense. This sounds like, let's not make mistakes here. Cleveland is a bad football team. Let's get a win any way we can, because that high of the win on Sunday against the Ravens, you can't lose momentum with a terrible loss against the Browns. That's how I'm looking at this game, Ben.
My natural inclination, DRS, to see that total earlier in the week in the mid-30s was what? Pittsburgh has gone over in 4 of their 5 wins here in a row. We'll continue to break down Thursday night next.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on Sports Grid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on Sports Grid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on Sports Grid.
We get you ready for week number 12 and a Thursday night football game in division. in the AFC North tonight in the land between the Browns and the Steelers. Again, back to the total and the number. 3.5-point spread in favor of the Steelers, who are 8-2 and sit atop the AFC North, a cover in all 8 wins. That total on its way up, 37.5. But again, we are expecting wind and rain and maybe a little bit of a wintry mix. Gusts up to 40 miles per hour. Sustained winds anywhere around 23 to 25 miles per hour. Every offense around the National Football League, DRS, will tell you the thing that impacts game plan and offensive flow more than anything, it's not rain, it's not snow, it's wind. And to your point about Jameis Winston and a total in the mid-30s, I was like, absolutely not. I'm going to bet the over in this game when I first saw it. But if they are unable to pass the ball efficiently or effectively, and they turn to the ground game, I still think I lean under tonight.
And again, nobody's going to fault you for that, too. And if this was a Sunday game in bad weather, maybe be a little bit tougher because you get that extra week of preparation. You get a little bit more relaxed. You're coming off your games last week, but that's not the case. It's a Thursday night football game. And quite frankly, these teams aren't used to playing yet in the cold weather, in the messy weather. So it's almost like it's going to be the first time for each one of these teams to say, you know what? Look at this. It might be rainy. It might be slippery. How do we handle it? So that makes it a little bit tougher. And also, as I said previously, we're not looking for a showmanship win out of the Pittsburgh Steelers. 13-9, they would love to get out of there, secure that victory, and keep moving along in their season. Now, granted, the Cleveland Browns would love to pull the upset on the Pittsburgh Steelers as a hated rival. They don't do it that often, so this would be a big shock, but also understand the, test at hand. The Steelers are playing for a lot. It's hard for an NFL team like, hey, let's just play the spoiler, and we're not even in the month of December or at Thanksgiving yet. That's terrible. That's just a bad football team. I would be surprised if the Steelers lost this game, but at the same time, I'm not really running to the window to lay the 3.5. But I do agree with you. Right. Probably more of a lean towards the under, but again, the worst under quarterback in the history of football to me. I don't care about statistics, what he is with his over-under. You say Jameis Winston, or you say like Baker Mayfield, let's take the under, that sends shivers down your spine, man. It does.
I would agree. 5th total this year for Pittsburgh, sub 40, under in the first 2, over in the previous 2. I'll tell you why in just a moment. Lowest total of the year on paper for Cleveland. Their previous 2 totals that were under the number of 40 stayed under that pregame total. Cleveland an underdog in 7 of 10 games this year. 2 outright victories as a dog in Jacksonville, and of course the upset over Baltimore and Jameis Winston's first start of the season. Just 3-4 against the spread. The only cover in any of the 8 L's this year for Cleveland a couple of weeks ago against the Philadelphia Eagles in the game that Deshaun Watson was injured. Pittsburgh not just covering in all 8 games this year, DRS, but as a favorite post-Ben Roethlisberger. That starts in 2022, 12-7 against the spread, which is really good. In fact, second best in the NFL in that span, only behind the best cover team in the National Football League in the last 3.5 years, that being the Detroit Lions. So as we look now at the evolution of this Pittsburgh team, one of the reasons, DRS, again, that I looked at the total in the mid-30s early this week and said, no chance, I'm betting the over, because of what Pittsburgh has been with Russell Wilson. You can see the numbers. It wasn't bad with Justin Fields. They were winning football games. They have won all football games with Russ as the starter, averaging more than 27 points per game, up by nearly a touchdown from the offensive and scoring production earlier in the year. As I said, 5th total of the season for Pittsburgh, sub 40. First 2 under when Fields started. The second 2 with Russ under center. Both have gone well over.
And also, take a look at Cleveland, the way they played their games this year. Remove the Ravens game at 29 points. Let's just say that's the outlier at this point. 17, 18, 15, 16, 13, 16, 14, 10, and 14. That's the points numbers here for the Cleveland Browns. Now, you could say, yes, a lot of that was under Deshaun Watson. Well, how about the past 2 games, 10 points and 14 points out of Jameis? And also keep in mind, stripped down of a lot of good football players that have either, been injured and or been traded, a la Amari Cooper. It's not a great team, and they're going to go up against a very good pass rush for the Pittsburgh Steelers that's going to be pinning their ears back. And Arthur Smith, in a game like this, is not being told by Mike Tomlin, get out there, let's get 3 touchdowns in the first half and run away with this game. It's let's get in the field goal range to use our kicker who makes every single kick, which again will be tougher to make kicks in this environment outdoors in this weather. Everything is pointing to an under outside of just saying the name. Jameis Winston at this point. You see the team totals and you say, you know what, Donnie? You like team totals. How about the Steelers to score 21 points? It does make sense until you realize you're probably going to need the full 3 touchdowns, but also 3 extra points in this weather. There's nothing worse than saying, Donnie, how did it go? We scored 3 touchdowns. I missed 1 extra point. I lost my team total. That's terrible to have. So even that 20.5 feels like a trick number for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And you know what's a little bit interesting about Pittsburgh's new OC, Arthur Smith, in his 3 years in Atlanta as their offensive schemer as well? He was often people got mad at him, especially when Bijan Robinson came to the A, for not running the football enough. The Steelers are running the football on 52.5% of their plays, second most rushing play percentage, second highest rushing play percentage, only behind Philadelphia. So how does the weather, how does the game plan affect the props for tonight? Russell Wilson, 186.5. Jameis Winston, 217 and a hook. That's Jameis Winston football, baby, minus 198 to throw a pick.
And by the way, he's probably going to throw a pick, but also that 217.5. Like, if I think the Steelers are winning, the MO shouldn't be for Cleveland. Let's run the football. Like, you're trying to just do a little bit of a spark in your season, not keep the game close. So that Jameis number is quite interesting because I do think he's going to throw it all over the place. The question is, how many of those will be completed to his own team is going to be the question mark. And also, I know we're going to talk about this game a little bit more in the next segment. I got a Joe Frizo special in this one that's paying out at a big price right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook in the props market here. How about that, team?
Oh, everybody's getting down with the numbers. By the way, Jameis Winston in his 3 starts, at least 235 yards. In the win against the Ravens, 334. Last week against the Saints, 395. 6 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, all 3 INTs in that loss to the Chargers, who are the best scoring defense in the NFL, Pittsburgh's second best scoring defense. More on the props in the Joe Frizo special next.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on Sports Grid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Quarterly, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma will do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on Sports Grid.
We continue to look at the prop market for a Thursday night football game that only features a total of 37 and a hook and some gnarly weather expected tonight in Cleveland. So, Donnie, naturally the thought would be, all right, both running backs are going to have a lot of usage and production tonight. Najee Harris, the number is actually rather minimal, 66 and a half. Nick Chubb, 52 and a hook. How are you approaching the ground game tonight in front of the dog pound?
It's kind of tough because when you look at and again, it's based on a season here, right? Pro Football Focus, the second-ranked run defense in the NFL, the Cleveland Browns. So it sort of fits the MO, whereas if you're going to have a sloppy game, you're going to try to run the football, but you're not exactly trying to abuse a weakness on the opposing team's defense as opposed to throwing it around. And then again, Arthur Smith isn't going to throw it around tonight. This game will probably be much closer to the vest. It's just a matter of how Cleveland actually plays. But if we're looking at the two starting running backs, right? Najee Harris, 66 and a half. Sometimes you keep it simple. He's going to be running the football in the second half because they'll probably have the lead. It'll be close. He's a talented running back. I understand that. Nick Chubb on the opposite side, how long we have the lead for, but also maybe you don't have to have the lead. You're not down 2 and 3 scores where it's like, hey, they can't run the football anymore. You just have to pass. But the way I'm actually approaching the running back position is not from an actual ground game. It's actually from the air. And you don't need a lot. Yesterday, you take a look at some of these running backs and say, okay, who would you lean towards? Is it Najee in the pass game? Is it Nick Chubb in the pass game? No, it's not. It's Jaylen Warren. He was 13 and a half his reception prop yesterday. Today, it's 14 and a half. The reason I bring this up is if we are looking at maybe it will be a little bit testy throwing the football downfield, what's a quarterback's best friend in bad weather? Snap the football, pass rush comes, dump it off to the running back. I think Jaylen Warren, from a running back perspective, for me, gets most of my attention, not even in the running game, but the passing game here. But I can't fault you if you take Najee. He's going to get the carries. The one thing you're not going to have, Ben, at the end of this game is like, man, I took Najee. He only got 9 carries in this game. No, he's going to have a significant amount of carries, which should get him to 66 and a half. But as I pointed out, one of the better run defenses in the NFL, it's the Cleveland Browns. So sort of a tough uphill climb there for me.
To start off this 5-game win streak, Najee Harris above the century mark in 3 consecutive. He has had less than 70 in the last 2. Jaylen Warren, 4 consecutive games of at least 41 yards on the ground. His rushing yards prop 33 and a hook, and to your point, DRS, 15-plus receiving yards in 3 of the last 4 for Warren as well. Nobody has been happier to see Russell Wilson as his starting quarterback than the guy that leaked that Russ was going to be the starter for Pittsburgh. That's George Pickens, 58 and a half, his receiving yards prop tonight.
Yeah, and again, that's what you're trying to struggle with. You know George Pickens is going to get the bulk of that deep shots down the sideline. What can you even it's bad weather, maybe they don't want to pass the football, but you know he's getting at least 3 of those 40-yard lobs down the sideline with a legitimate chance to go under. But also, if you're saying, and this sometimes comes into it, I'm not going to be betting this game early, and I've done this a few times this year. When I hear weather's in the forecast, I need to get eyes and boots on the ground at some of those pregame telecasts where it's like, oh, it looks terrible, or the rain is coming down, or an updated weather saying, you know what, by the second quarter, you're not going to be able to see the TV screen. There's going to be so much wind, rain, and or snow here. That's a factor. Are you looking from a Browns perspective as opposed to George Pickens being the number one, where Jerry Jeudy has caught the bulk of that, and how much throwing will they actually do? For me, it seems like it will be spread out just a little bit more. Pratt Freiermuth, 18 and a half yards. Again, bad weather, short throws, they make the most sense to me. But if you are looking from the opposite side, David Njoku, 45 and a half, maybe. But I do think Jerry Jeudy has a chance at 47 and a half to maybe break one where it's like a 25 or 30-yard play to sort of eat into that chunk at 47 and a half. And you know Jameis Winston is going to be throwing it all over the place. Not all that high on this game from a wideout perspective, but if I had to lean on one, it's probably Pickens getting the bulk of those deep ball shots tonight for the Steelers.
I'm just not overly high on the passing game tonight, given the weather, given my thoughts on it. But Cedric Tillman has gone over his number in 4 consecutive games, including all 3 with Jameis Winston as the starting quarterback. Had 75-plus in the first 2 Jameis Winston starts. Last week, it was a big Jerry Jeudy game in the Big Easy. 142 yards and a touchdown. 89-yard touchdown grab, that big play threat. One of the longest passing plays in the history of this Cleveland organization. So an AFC North divisional duel. Last week's win for Pittsburgh against Baltimore was their first divisional game of the year. And Donnie, they now have a 1.5-game lead for the top spot. You would expect 8-2 record, 1.5-game lead, direct head-to-head tiebreaker against the team you are battling for first place with. You'd probably be minus 500 to win the division. It's only minus 160.
Yeah.
Will the Steelers hold on? Will Pittsburgh win the AFC North?
Yeah, I do think Pittsburgh has a legitimate chance, but you're talking about a tough schedule for the Steelers on out, but also a tough schedule for the Ravens. Give me the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point, and I'll leave this before the break. Najee Harris, I'm going to alt him to over 40. Alt him.
That's good. More on the early line next.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on Sports Grid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on Sports Grid.
Live right here on the Early Line on Sports Grid, we get you set for not just a new week in the NFL, it's week number 12, but a new week in college football as well. Week number 13, our second to last, that's the penultimate Saturday of this 2024 college football regular season. And to help us preview everything you need to know, including Game of the Year number 5, yet another top 5 tilt, it is Mark Zinno joining us here on this Thursday on the Early Line. He'll become the mouth in the South in just a little bit. But Zinno, we start with a Big Ten battle, and we're happy to have you here on this Thursday.
Gentlemen, great to be with you as always. All eyes on the horseshoe as we descend to find out whether Indiana's going to the college football playoff or not.
So, it has been a lot of conversation and conjecture over the last week and a half or so, as a nation is focused on one football program and solely one football program. You bet your bottom dollar. That's Coach Sig and the Indiana Hoosiers in Bloomington. If you had that on your bingo card for 2024, that number 5 Indiana in the college football playoff rankings and number 2 Ohio State would be considered a game of the year before the season got started. Credit to you. And here it is, this Saturday afternoon, noon Eastern time kick in Columbus, Ohio, inside the shoe, number 2 Ohio State, number 5 Indiana, and yet, Zinno, a 13.5-point spread in favor of the Buckeyes. Total stands at 51.5. There are so many different ways to approach this game. Its significance for a Big Ten championship race. Its significance, of course, first and foremost, for the college football playoff. In what a loss would do to Indiana's resume. So here is how I'm going to ask you the question marks, If Indiana covers the number, will it change at all how you view this Hoosiers football season in the legitimacy of Indiana's candidacy for the college football playoff?
Well, there's a difference between cover the number and have a chance to win the game and cover the number. Yeah, they can backdoor this thing here from a 20-point spread to a 7-point spread, a 20-point game rather to a 14-point game and get within the number. You follow what I'm saying there? Like, it's not impossible for them to cover the number. But having a chance to win the game is really what this metric is all about and how we're going to judge Indiana. Do they have a chance to win the game in the second half? Do they have a chance to take a lead in the second half? If those answers are no, then guess what? Really is irrelevant whether Ohio State covers the spread or not. Indiana was never really in the game, and I don't think they will be in the game. I mean, I jumped on this earlier in the week. I got minus 12.5, and I have very little hesitation about that number and it being wrong. I mean, the last 14 times a top 5 undefeated team has been a double-digit underdog. They are 0-14 straight up and 5-9 against the number. In fact, this is the 7th consecutive season where a team 10-0 or better has been a double-digit underdog, including bowl games, because last year it was Florida State. 5 of the last 6 have all lost, and all 5 losers scored 10 points or less in that game. Indiana is going to get steamrolled on Saturday.
Let's go. So let's buy into this week 13, weak schedule, weak football team of Indiana. By the way, shout out his agent. If anybody out there right now is watching and you need an agent, get Signetti's agent here. Absolutely fantastic work to secure the bag before the biggest game of the season. Quite frankly, the only game of the season. So, Mark, I'll ask you this question, too, in this game, because I am intrigued by it. If Indiana can hang around. Colder temperatures here in the shoe this weekend, low 40, some windy conditions. If we're looking from an Indiana side of things, where they haven't stepped up in competition just yet, how do they handle this game? It's basically their first game of the season against any real competition.
Well, I think you have some similarities here. If you look at the other teams that are in the top 30, top 40 in total defense in the country, when they faced Washington at home, they scored 24 offensive points. One of those touchdowns was a pick 6. They faced an even higher rated defense in the Michigan Wolverines at home and only scored 20 points. Last time I checked, I only got to go down the list to the second slot to find where the Ohio State defense is. Number 2 in the nation in total defense. If I went from 24 to 20 against the number 2 defense, again, 5 of the last 6 times, the team that was a double-digit underdog only scored 10 points. Don't be shocked when the Hoosiers offense and Curtis Rourke come back down to earth and realize, guess what? This is a different level of team we're playing here.
I love it. I love it. I'll just
Never
say,
the best breakdown we've ever
I
had.
love being on the other side from you two bozos. In every incorrect take you have about college sports in the history of doing this show. I love it. I love Zeno, jump on. Alted up to 24.5, Zeno. Well done.
Yep.
Well done. Because you two idiots do the same thing that everybody else has done when talking about Indiana's football schedule. Oh, I can look at the strength of schedule. It's only 106 in the country. Nobody is denying that. If you are going to argue Indiana's invalid success this year, then argue the correct things, which is that Indiana has squeaked past opponents like BYU or other teams at certain points, or Ohio State at home as a 25.5-point favorite against Nebraska, won the game by 4 as they stonewalled the Cornhuskers late in the game. You know who beat Nebraska by 49 at home? Indiana. Oh, they weren't so good against Washington. Who was the quarterback that day, Zeno?
It was a backup.
Michael Penix.
It was Taven Jackson, and they still won by 2 touchdowns. I am so happy to be on the other side from you guys. It is so, so great. It's a step-up spot for Indiana. There is no doubt. And they might lose the game, and they might lose by double digits. Heck, they might not even cover against Ohio State. I understand it, but your argument and assessment is just the nature of what is wrong with how people deem a successful season in college football.
I didn't say Indiana was having an unsuccessful season. The question from DR, the question from I never said they were having an unsuccessful season. All I said, the question from DRS was, how will they handle the step up in class? And I looked at the two other biggest defenses that they faced, and comparatively saying with this, the second best defense in the country.
Why?
Go ahead.
To point to why Indiana has no chance to stay in this football game because you do not deem their step up in competition successful. And then I ask you, if they stay within the number, if they cover the number, is an 11-1 Indiana football team still a college football playoff contender? And your answer to that question would be?
No.
Exactly.
Again, do they have
so we reach the ultimate conclusion.
The measure that I have here is, do they have a chance to take a lead late in the game or win late in the game? Because, again, getting inside 14 is not really all that difficult, especially if Ohio State is up 17 or 20 and they let a garbage touchdown in, right? Like, they can get inside the number. I mean, you know, again, here's the thing, and this is the way I think the game scripts unfolds, because this is what we've seen from Ohio State this year. I think it's going to be tight in the first half. I wouldn't even be surprised to see Indiana have a lead or tied at half. But Ohio State in the second half this year has absolutely steamrolled people. Go back to the Iowa game. 7-0 game in the horseshoe against Iowa. How'd that finish? 35-7 in favor of Ohio State. You know, the second half of that, they've made adjustments. They have come out and beaten teams handily in the second half. So I'm prepared for a Ben never actually texts me, but I'm prepared that Ben would be texting me at halftime going, look at Indiana hanging around. You know, and then, you know, 30 minutes, an hour later, I'm like, Indiana get out of college football playoff. So, you know, but I prepared for it to be close early and then Ohio State to pull away late.
Number one, lose my number. Number two, I actually do believe that Indiana will stay within the number in the opening half as well. That is the Hoosiers' best and, frankly, only chance to pull off the upset in Columbus or to even cover. Because if they are trailing, there is no doubt that Ohio State's defense, which is tops in the country alongside Army in terms of scoring defense, only allowing 10.3 points per game, it is going to be tough sledding for Indiana, as it would be for every other college football team in the country. We'll talk about Army and the rest of the slate next.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on Sports Grid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, you know, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Quarterly, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma will do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas, you know?
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on Sports Grid.
I don't know if I can handle. Well, no, you know what? Actually, Indiana-Ohio State discussion is over for right now. So I can ask Mark Zinno about this next game. But there's a part of me, that wants Donnie Rightside just to take this entire segment so I can get my heart rate back down. Let's go to the Bronx, inside Yankee Stadium, in a top 20 tilt between Notre Dame and Army. The Irish, 14.5-point favorite against another undefeated team, one of 3 remaining FBS unbeaten programs in the Army Black Knights. 14.5-point spread. Zinno, total is 44.5. 2 teams that run the football incredibly well and 2 teams that also play some great defense. How do you break down the Bronx battle on Saturday night inside Yankee Stadium?
I'm kind of afraid to answer, so I was wondering if you could tell me which side you're on. Which side you're on first? I know how to respond here.
Passing touchdowns probably going to be the way I go, just so you know.
Okay. Well, I would probably agree with that because I think that Army's going to get outclassed similarly the same way that Navy has got outclassed by Notre Dame. I mean, this is just about athletes for me. Like at the end of the day, Notre Dame is going to put 11 better guys on the field than Army at every single position on both sides of the ball. And I just don't know how Army deals with it. Like, you know, maybe if this game was at West Point, you could look at it that way. I mean, Notre Dame is good. Yankee Stadium is going to be filled with Notre Dame fans. I get that Army's right up the road, so to speak, right there up the Hudson, but this is going to be a massively Notre Dame crowd inside Yankee Stadium for this game, which is going to be an awesome sight to see in a great venue. I don't know how Army keeps up if Navy gets a 2-touchdown lead. Similarly, the way Navy went up 14-0. I'm sorry, Notre Dame rather went up 14-0 on Navy, and it was all for naught after that. How does Army play catch up? Like, I just don't. I know what they're able to do against everybody else, but again, Notre Dame is the one team in the country that sees the service academies regularly and knows how to go against them. Marcus Freeman has been part of this program for years, and he's seen service academies regularly and knows what to do. So I unless Notre Dame beats themselves, I don't see Army staying within this number. I know they're a very popular dog here, but I wouldn't get involved. It's Notre Dame or pass for me.
Yeah, I agree with you there too, Mark. On Army, 13.5 is their team total to FanDuel Sportsbook. If you take the under, it's juiced at plus 102, which is nice. You take a look at that Notre Dame defense, which has been very good. I believe 9 games this year, 16 points or less they've held their opponents to. It's definitely going to be tough because the one thing we do know, if you're better on the offensive and defensive line against Army, that's usually their advantage against like schools. They won't have that against Notre Dame. But let's take a look at Army overall. An unbelievable season. Coming into the year preseason, certainly undefeated. What is that, 160-1 here? You take a look at the conference, 25-1. Conference football playoffs here, 150-1. Now you look conference plus 220, CFP playoffs plus 760. How do we feel about Army? Because if they can, and again, let's just have some fun here, pull off an upset against Notre Dame, what do we see from the Black Knights the rest of the way?
If they pull off an upset against Notre Dame, they should immediately be the highest ranked Group of 5 school. That's not even a question. Yeah. And I honestly felt like the committee was kind of unserious with what they did with Boise State this week, as Boise State would have gotten a first-round bye had the playoffs started. Please spare me, okay? Like, let's get real here. Beyond that, but, you know, if Army can pull off this upset, and my heart is wishing that they do, obviously. You guys know where my loyalties reside. That said, they would be in the most unenviable situation ever, because you're ready for this. They would play the conference championship game on December 6th, Army-Navy on December 14th, then start the college football playoff the following week. So, yeah, it's not a fun trip for Army as far as the games are concerned, but what a ride it's going to be for the Black Knights if they can pull it off.
The only thing I will say is that Army is a much better defense than that of the Naval Academy, tied for the best scoring defense in the country, third best rushing defense in the country, only allowing about 82 yards per game. Navy entered against Notre Dame, allowing $150. They allow more than 163 yards. Now, that is where Army has a better opportunity than did the Mids to stay in this football game against Notre Dame. Again, don't love the number for Army. We shall see. As an underdog under Jeff Munkin in the last 5 years, 14-11-1 against the spread. And Bryson Daly, if you don't know the name, you should on Saturday. So, no, these guys get no breaks at West Point, as you know, and as a cadet. He has run the football at least 31 times after missing the Air Force game with injury. They get this guy out there and they let him go. Army has been a great story. We'll see how it plays off Saturday night in the Bronx against the Fighting Irish. Huge Big 12 weekend, Martino, between not only Colorado and Kansas, but now BYU looking to bounce back after its opening loss of the season. Arizona State, an 8-2 football team, now ranked 21st in the CFP top 25 against the BYU team that fell 8 spots to number 14. BYU still the highest ranked Big 12 team in the CFP top 25. But, the odds makers have not loved the Cougars all year, and they're catching 3.5 points on the road in Tempe on Saturday afternoon. How do you break down this Big 12 bash?
Speaking of odds makers not loving a team, they have undervalued Arizona State a lot this year as well. And, by the way, if you don't know the name Kenny Dillingham, the head coach of Arizona State, you're going to start to know him real soon because the turnaround that he's done with that Sun Devils program has been nothing short of remarkable in putting them on the map this year. Look, you have BYU coming off this big loss, right, in Provo and going out on the road here. And let me just give you a trend. When you have two ranked teams playing each other, Arizona 21st, BYU 13th, the worst ranked home favorite in this case in the last 30 matchups is 21-9 ATS. If it's game 8 or later in the season, they are 15-4. That's 79% against the spread since 2019. Give me the Sun Devils here, who still have a shot to play in the Big 12 championship game if they win this one. And it's a big one at home for the Sun Devils here. I'll lay the 3.5. I mean, if you're really sort of worried about it, buy a half point or even pay the extra juice on the money line and go to minus 146. But Arizona State walks out of here a winner.
ASU, one of 6 FBS programs that has covered 80% of their games or more this season, as is Indiana and Army, by the way. BYU, though, a perfect 4-0 outright. That's straight up as an underdog so far this season. Zeno, you were going to preview Thursday Night Football, but we'll do that in hour 3. We got to get to the mouth in the South and his SEC picks for this Saturday next.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on Sports Grid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on Sports Grid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on Sports Grid.
Again, I got to compose myself for just a second, but for a different reason, to start off yet another segment with two guys. I called some names earlier, but I do dearly, dearly respect. All right. I might need you got to take it, DRS. You got to give me a
Let's just get to the SEC picks.
Do we have to run the stinger since Ben's not calling it? Oh, there we go.
There we
Stinger.
go.
Oh, yeah.
You
You're
know,
out in the
Donnie.
South. There we
Yeah,
go.
you got-
Light up
you
the
got-
stinger as we go. The SEC. Look, we could talk all day long about other conferences, but as we know, the SEC, it just means more. Mark Zinnos here with us, and we're going to talk some SEC action. And as always going to be talking about who's going to win the national championship. It does go through the SEC. You're looking at some of the national championship odds right now. Texas plus 550, Alabama 8-1, Georgia plus 480, Texas A&M even with a good record here, sitting there. What is that? 100-1 at this point. Ole Miss 10-1, Tennessee at 40-1. National championship odds here for the SEC. Mark, in your opinion, right now, who should we be taking?
Value perspective, I'd like to think that Georgia is the SEC way to go. I mean, look, they're going to need help. Auburn's going to have to beat Alabama in the Iron Bowl, which is always somewhat of a possibility, right? If they get into the SEC championship game against Texas, I mean, doesn't Georgia have a huge mental advantage, especially with that game being in Atlanta? Like, won't they have a huge mental advantage over the Longhorns in the rematch, knowing how they handled them the first time? Texas may be the better team, but Georgia in those spots seems to come up, pretty big. And again, when you're seeing Georgia at this number, like similarly last year, you saw Alabama at this number, it's hard for me to walk away from it. As much as, Georgia fans can kind of grate on you a little bit, and they can grate on me here living in Atlanta, but that's a team right now that at a plus 310 price, I would look at as a team worth taking a flyer on to win the SEC.
And Georgia does not, as Mark said, control its own destiny. It's actually rather simple in terms of how the SEC will play out despite all the potential tie-breaking scenarios. The most likely scenario is Texas beating Texas A&M despite being in College Station. They'll be a road favorite, right now 7.5 points, entering their final game of the year. If the Longhorns win out, they are in. If Alabama wins out, the Crimson Tide are in if Texas beats Texas A&M. Now, the Aggies do have 2 losses this season, but just one in SEC play. So notice that 13-1 price on Texas A&M at this moment. The game of the year potentially in the SEC will be the renewal for the first time since 2011 of the Lone Star State Showdown between the Longhorns and the Aggies. I was told only Indiana has an easy schedule, not Georgia taking on UMass this week, or Tennessee with a non-conference game week number 13 against UTEP, or Alabama playing Mercer a week ago, but we'll save that for another day. In a conference that just means more and everybody is so good they only play 8 SEC games. Zeno, as you look at the SEC for Saturday, Texas 3-touchdown favorite against Kentucky. Alabama laying nearly 2 touchdowns on the road in Norman. In another peculiar game, Florida pulled off the upset over LSU this past Saturday in the Swamp. The Gators getting double digits at home against Ole Miss. Might Billy Napier and UF be able to cause some more chaos?
I think it's a game that they can keep close. Again, Ole Miss has these flat spots more traditionally than other teams do. So, yeah, it's Florida a pass for me. I kind of like Oklahoma here. I genuinely do. I like the number better at 14.5 where it was. I know it's come down a little bit as some sharps have hit on Oklahoma. But, again, this feels like another flat spot with a look ahead for Alabama and Auburn in the Iron Bowl next week. And Oklahoma's defense still pretty solid here. It's interesting about A&M, though, because I'm worried about them winning this week more than any other team in the SEC. I think they're in trouble in Auburn. I think Jordan Hare is going to be an unwelcome sight for them this weekend. For as erratic as Hugh Freeze and the Auburn Tigers have been, I feel an upset coming here for Auburn.
Yeah, when you see that 2.5-point spread, it does beg that question. Again, Georgia in non-conference action. They are done in their SEC slate. They are 6-2. Of course, the 2 losses to Alabama and Ole Miss, but potentially the best win in the country this year on the road as an underdog against Texas. Tennessee against UTEP. Mark Zinno, this was a rather contentious half hour. And so for some of the words I do apologize. Don't lose my number. We can text on Saturday. That is fine. But we appreciate your insight here on this Thursday on the early line. Thanks for being here.
Gentlemen, you're the best. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you very, very soon. Hour number 3 up next, live right here on Sports Grid.